A.S. by J.N. Wdowski. Copyright 2024. Silently, he pointed Venus out to her as their vehicle self-navigated the serene, empty roads. Hanging low in the pre-dawn sky, the second planet was at a 90-degree angle from the sun to the Earth. She smiled as they traveled across the mile-long bridge to Fisherman's Haven. Halfway across the bridge, the young, handsome couple witnessed the first rays of the morning sun. Oranges radiated from behind the eastern horizon, illuminating the dark blues of the Atlantic.
Martian sunrises were never this beautiful.
She broke their silence.
I agree.
Once on the man-made island, they passed the fish hatcheries and the aqua pens on their way to the small harbor that had an even more dramatic view of the dawn. Silhouetted against the sun, the first fishing trawlers were pulling in with their morning catches. Several vehicles from some of the finest restaurants in the area had already beaten them to the wharf. Exiting from their vehicle, they made their way to the docks.
Bait! I hope we're not too late.
She wanted to hasten their pace to the boats. Bait resisted her wanting to rush. He wanted to take in the sounds of their steps upon the wooden planks, the fresh ocean air, and the sensation of the water lapping against the pillars and rocking boats tied alongside. Understanding his desire, she slowed her pace and locked her arm with his. They strolled as a couple, allowing their sensors to savor the ambience of the ocean, the harbor, and each other.
The blues are back from off Florida.
She reminded him.
I have a wonderful idea for blues.
At least 3 dozen?
She asked.
Sounds good.
They moved to the first boat that was already unloading live lobsters into a tank alongside it. Bet approached the tank and began selecting 2- and 3-pounders. She noticed next to the tank an ice box filled with freshly harvested little necks.
The little necks.
She insisted.
You can make your wonderful spicy cocktail sauce.
He nodded in agreement and gestured to a boat across from them that was just starting to unload crates of flat-bottomed Picasso-eyed flounders.
Yes.
She responded to his nonverbal suggestion. After loading the fresh seafood, they climbed back into their vehicle. Bet gave a voice command to the car.
The farmer's market.
The vehicle pulled out of the lot and headed back towards the bridge. He put his arm around her, letting her lean into him.
You know we could just make our orders online. They can deliver directly to us by aerodrone, before the boats even return to harbor.
I know, but I love making these weekly trips with you.
I am glad to hear you say that.
He pulled her in a little tighter. It was not long that they were once again upon the bridge heading back to the mainland. Just before reaching the other side, the vehicle came to a sudden stop.
What is it?
She lifted her head from his shoulder, looking out the forward windshield. Blocking their way, a truck with simplified Chinese characters on its trailer was jackknifed across the bridge. He did not answer her. Instead, he sat up and commanded,
Manual override.
A steering column extended before him along with an accelerator and a brake pedal on the floor. He shifted the car into reverse as 2 Asian gunmen appeared from the truck's cab.
Forward smoke.
The vehicle fired 2 smoke canisters in the direction of the gunmen. Behind them, a second truck pulled across the bridge, blocking their retreat. It had the same Chinese characters written across its trailer. They spotted 2 more gunmen emerging from its cab.
Rear smoke.
The car fired 2 more smoke canisters.
How did they find us?
She asked.
Hold on.
He shifted the car into drive and turned the wheel hard to the right, running the vehicle off the bridge. They hit the water hard, sinking fast beneath the waves. Midway down, the vehicle stabilized its descent. Its wheels pulled in, replacing them with hydrofoils. On each side of the car, 2 hydrojets emerged.
And you said these modifications were a foolish investment.
Bet reminded her.
It cost 1/3 of our bonus.
She defended her original objection.
What were the odds they would have tried to ambush us on a bridge? You were lucky.
It wasn't luck. We live in Rhode Island. Water was a well-calculated escape option.
Using the overhead display projected onto the forward windshield, he navigated the vehicle out to sea and away from danger. An hour later, he had veered the vehicle back towards the shoreline. the vehicle transformed back into a car as it rolled out of the surf onto a beach several miles north of the bridge.
Shall we continue to the farmer's market?
He asked.
They could be waiting for us there too.
True, but I don't want to give up our restaurant. Between that and this vehicle, we do not have much left from our bonus.
He answered. She coolly replied,
They clearly found us.
Perhaps we should find them?
Find them. There are too many of them.
She felt he was not being realistic.
It is always just one that controls them. The Dalao Ban, the big boss.
If you knock off one Dalauban, there are always 10 more lined up to replace him.
What else can we do? Leave everything we built behind? And what of Veronica?
He switched the vehicle to autopilot. The car resumed its pre-programmed destination.
Change our identities? Work for Woody? Abandon her?
She gave a knee-jerk response.
No, definitely not. She is family. We can't just disappear on her, and I refuse to work for Woody.
She is no longer a child. She can take over the restaurant.
He answered.
They are not going to bother her. As long as we are together, I don't care where we are or what we have.
She responded by wrapping her arms around him and nestling her head against his chest. She could hear the strong, steady, mechanical pumping of his heart.
I really do not want to give up what we have built here. I am tired of them. I am tired of us living in fear of them. Why can't they just let the past remain in the past?
He stared out to the road before them.
It is not in their nature to let go of the past. I think the time has come for us to be proactive.
Their vehicle pulled into the farmer's market, parked, and powered down. Within a few minutes, two curious yet very cautious Asian men approached their vehicle. The men's outfits were identical, simple, casual, and yet clearly brand new. Their eyes hid behind dark sunglasses and their heads covered by New York Yankee baseball caps, an odd choice for Red Sox territory. No one exited from the vehicle. In confusion, one of the men shrugged his shoulders to the other. The tinted windows of the vehicle made it impossible for them to see what was happening inside. The increased flow of patrons to the farmer's market made it impossible for them to do anything. They decided to back off and observe from afar. At the far end of the lot, they reached their own car. Just as they opened their doors, they both suddenly collapsed to the pavement. Belle and Bet quickly moved in. Lifting the two men effortlessly, they pushed them into the back of the car. Bet climbed into the back with the unconscious men, while Belle climbed into the front. They quickly shut the doors to the outside world. Bet noted the bee-sting-sized darts were still pumping small amounts of tranquilizers into their necks.
They'll be out for a while. You search the car. I'll search them.
Bet began to strip them down and rummage through their clothing. From each of their windbreakers' pockets, he found ultraviolet teaser weapons capable of painlessly assaulting a person's nervous system or shorting out the electrical system of a machine. He also found 9mm handguns and shoulder holsters under their jackets. Their sunglasses were not mere sunglasses. They were small computers and communications devices. Taking off one of their shirts, he found colorful tattoos all over the man's arms and body.
They are not PLA intelligence.
They're not.
She looked at the tattoos on the body.
They are not even Chinese. They're Yakuza. Why would Japanese gangsters be looking for us?
The trucks on the bridge had simplified Chinese characters. That would be mainland Chinese. The Japanese used traditional Chinese characters.
He mentioned to her.
So those on the bridge were most likely PLA too.
She theorized.
Most likely.
He agreed.
These two are armed with ultra-stunners. They had hoped to seize us undamaged. Those on the bridge were armed with assault rifles.
I can understand why the PLA-2 wants to take us out.
She said.
But why would the Yakuza be looking to capture us?
Perhaps they have a job they want us to do for them.
He theorized.
Tensions between China and Japan have been reaching boiling point in the East China Sea. There is extreme nationalist in the new Japanese government that wants to retake the islands the Chinese took in 2035.
Would they be so bold to work with the Yakuza?
She asked.
It wouldn't be the first time that a government has worked with organized crime to reach political goals. Perhaps the fact China has been weakened by the war on Mars. They feel they have an opportunity to reclaim the islands.
Should we revive them?
She ended her search of the vehicle.
They may have some answers.
I doubt they know why they were sent to capture us.
True, so what do we do with them?
The dose should allow them to sleep for another 8 hours. Plenty of time for us to do our shopping. I want to do a new fruit salad with red and white wine. We need pineapple, grapes, red delicious apples, Fuji apples, tangerines, blueberries, and kiwis.
He began easily tearing up the men's jackets to create makeshift bonds.
Oh, and pure honey.
Sounds very good.
She could imagine the colors and juices of the dish.
While I tie them, program their vehicle to take them far from here.
I can take out their GPS too. Since they are not from the States, it should be easy to get them lost.
Good idea. Another reason I love you so much?
My good ideas?
Yes, of course. You think I love you only for your body?
He joked a bit too dryly.
What's wrong with my body? I was modeled with perfect 36C, 25, 36 measurements.
She did not pick up on his dry humor.
I didn't say there was anything wrong with your body. I love your body. I am just saying I also love your mind.
And my heart?
Happy with his reply, she fished for more compliments.
Yes, of course. For your heart, too. You're the kindest Class A warrior bot I have ever known.
He pulled tight on the bonds to make sure the two men were properly restrained. His words touched her deeply as she reprogrammed the vehicle's guidance computer. Finishing the programming, she shorted out the GPS.
We need to exit the vehicle now, unless we want to go with them.
Understood.
They climbed out of the vehicle just before its autopilot started the engine.
Did you really mean all those things you said about me?
She asked him, ignoring the vehicle exiting the farmer's market on its own.
I even wrote a poem about how I feel about you.
A poem?
Her voice cracked with emotion. Silently, she waited, just looking at him, waiting for him to recite it to her.
Why do I love you? Did you use your intellect to charm me? Did you use your heart to romance me? Did you use your body to seduce me? Why do I love you so very much?
I didn't know you were a poet.
Not a very good one. It is why I never told you it before.
I loved it.
She smiled broadly.
Tell me another.
It is all I have for now. But if you really liked it, I will try to write another for you.
Please do.
She hugged him with both her arms as they walked towards the crowded market. They began to gather their ingredients for their week's menu. At one of the fruit stalls, a pot-bellied middle-aged man in a weathered fedora and unbuttoned black trench coat approached them. He stood beside them, saying nothing. He merely watched Belle select strawberries. Bet did not turn to face the man.
Woody, what are you doing here?
Originally, I was planning to just touch base with you, just to see how you're both doing.
Woody picked up an apple and inspected it. He addressed the farmer.
I think I'll get some of these.
The farmer handed him a paper bag.
We are both doing well.
Bet replied as Woody picked apples.
Luckily, escaping on the bridge, dealing with those two in the parking lot. You haven't lost your touch, Bet?
We didn't kill anyone.
Yet.
Woody placed 4 apples into the paper bag and addressed the farmer. How much?
20.
20?
Painfully, he took his credit stick from his pocket, touching the farmer's credit stick to make the transfer.
I remember when you could buy an apple for $2.
It is the times.
The farmer defended.
Yes, the times.
He placed the credit stick back in his pocket. He turned his attention back to Bet.
Times are not good, yes.
Better than they were on Mars.
Mars? That does seem very long ago.
We remember it like yesterday.
Well, I guess you would. Over time, my memory dims. Over time, my memories begin to seem like the past lives of others. It is becoming difficult for me to distinguish what are my actual memories or stories my brain has manufactured or at least embellished.
Isn't that the luxury of the victors, to write the history?
Yes, it is, but the losers do have their ways of writing revisionist history. Humiliation is often the theme in the loser's versions of the past. We both know how feelings of humiliation often lead to desires for revenge. Germany and World War II, Russia and the Eastern European conflict with NATO, China and the East China Sea war with Japan, the Middle East and the ongoing clashes on the Pakistani-Indian border. All conflicts justified by past humiliations.
I know. It seems very difficult to keep the past in the past.
As you said, you remember it as if it were yesterday. For the humiliated, they also remember it as if it were yesterday. No matter how many generations pass, they never forget or forgive. Daily, they play their defeats and slights over and over again in their heads, and teach their children and children's children about those that had wronged them. Even when those that committed the injustices and their victims have both long been dead and buried, they keep teaching hate. Interestingly, how those that cry humiliation never seem to remember the crimes of their own ancestors.
Woody took one of the apples out of the bag. He polished it on his trench coat sleeve before taking a crunching bite out of it.
Sweet.
He smiled as he chewed and swallowed.
But then again, I was on the winning side. I can enjoy the sweetness of the present.
We were also on the winning side, but we still remember the bitterness of the past.
I hear your restaurant is doing well.
We have been able to establish a loyal client base, and word of mouth has been slowly growing our business.
Good for you both.
Woody took another bite of his apple. Belle joined the conversation as she handed a box of strawberries to Bet.
Woody, I thought you were going to leave us alone.
Belle, not even a hello or how are you?
He questioned the beautiful woman-like android.
We've made it clear to you many times we have no interest in working for the agency.
An old colleague cannot just drop by and see how you are doing?
He threw the spent apple into a trash can, just barely missing the head of a woman pushing a stroller. Belle turned her back on Woody, returning to her shopping. She hoped he would take the hint and not follow them. Woody was not that easily deterred. He walked with them down the aisles of fruit and vegetable stalls.
Belle, I am here to help.
She said nothing as she stopped at a booth with farm-picked blueberries and raspberries. Bet was willing to talk to him.
Woody, how did you know what happened to us this morning? You have us under surveillance?
Unofficially. The agency legally cannot operate within the United States. That's the jurisdiction of those lawyers with badges.
The FBI.
Yeah, well, we have been noting that since their defeat on Mars, the Chinese Communist Party is looking for revenge. They have already eliminated 2 Class B warrior bots. We feared they may be emboldened to try to take you 2 out.
You think if they can, they will make another attempt to seize Mars?
Bet asked.
Mars is the jump-off point to the asteroid belt mining fields. Since the development of the asteroid belt, the mainland Chinese no longer have a monopoly on rare earth elements.
Belle turned from her berry picking to enter the conversation.
We all know why they want Mars. That still does not explain why you are bothering us now.
Like I said, I am here to help.
Really? Since when does the American government do anything that is not in the interests of the oligarchies that control this nation?
I think you are confusing us with the other side,
defended Woody.
I think you are fooling yourself if you really believe that. The 2 governments are no longer that different from each other. Granted, China may be ruled by only 7 families, and America is ruled by what? A dozen families.
We are still ruled by much more than only 12 families. More like professional guilds, government and trade unions, and perhaps a few dozen wealthy corporations. I never knew you to be so political, Belle.
Try starting a small business and keeping it from getting shut down by your own government. You cannot help but get political. She turned back to her grocery shopping.
Which is something I never understood. With all your skills and abilities, Why did you choose to open a restaurant?
I like cooking. Belle loves food shopping and dealing with customers.
Neither of you eat.
Woody pointed out the obvious.
Which is why we opened a restaurant. We can at least get the pleasure of watching our customers enjoy the foods we make for them.
Belle finished her purchase of a crate of blueberries and a crate of raspberries. They moved to another vendor. An automated cart now followed them with her purchases.
Feeding people is very different than killing them.
Pointed out between,
We find it much more rewarding.
I can understand that.
Woody surprised them with his reply.
I am not here to reinstate you, but we are concerned the party is not going to give up trying to capture you.
Capture us?
They both responded.
We have a new source that their intentions are to capture and reverse engineer at least one of you.
Woody unemotionally explained. Belle stopped her shopping. She was clearly troubled with this information.
Why can't you just deport them?
Those on the bridge are at this very moment being deported, but the Chinese government has many attached to their Cultural Affairs Department in their New York embassy.
You mean Chinese Secret Service? PLA's second department.
It is the most common true vocation of most cultural affairs officers, a kind of open secret between nations.
Is that what you are, Woody? A cultural affairs officer?
Belle snarly asked as she found a stall of fresh pineapples and kiwis.
I do love museums and the ballet.
He smiled. Bet realized that Woody would not have met them at the market if the situation was not dire.
Is it safe for us to return to the restaurant?
As I said, the ones on the bridge we have already apprehended. We actually arrived right as you were making your very dramatic escape.
What of the two in the parking lot? They were not PLA-2, they were Yakuzo. Why were they trying to capture us?
Bet asked.
Actually, they were here to protect you.
Protect us?
Belle answered in disbelief.
The Japanese do not want the party to get a hold of you. You have to remember a lot of your components are Japanese. You are not solely American-made. You also have state-of-the-art German, British, and Taiwanese technology. The last thing the Japanese would want is for the Chinese communist to have access to your tech.
The Yakuzo are not known for protecting people.
Bet pointed out.
The Yakuzo will work for whomever pays them, especially if it is in Japanese interests. They are much more nationalistic than you would imagine.
So, are we safe to go back to our restaurant?
Bet was not satisfied with Woody's answer.
For now, but they will try again.
Worried Belle looked to Bet. Her worrying only made him more anxious. They were not supposed to feel such emotions, but they did. Woody was counting on their very unique human-like emotions.
We really can help.
At what price?
Bet knew there was a catch.
God helps those that help themselves. The agency is no different.
You want us to work for you.
Belle did not like what Woody was suggesting.
Let's just say we are willing to assist you in finding a solution to your problem. A second East China Sea conflict would not be in our national interests, or the party attempting to make Mars red.
Woody smiled at his own pun. Their vehicle pulled into the back of their restaurant. 2 service bots came out to unload the groceries. Belle and Bet walked into the kitchen silently, watching the bots putting everything away as they reviewed their day. The bridge, the Yakuzo, Woody. The silence was unexpectedly broken by As Time Goes By playing from the dining room. They both went into the dining room to discover that the hologram stage had been activated. Dooley Wilson, as Sam in the 1942 film Casablanca, was playing and singing. Their one non-robotic employee was sitting at one of the front tables watching the performance.
Veronica, it's your day off.
Bet approached the young woman.
I got this new holo program. I thought it would go nicely with the ambience of the restaurant. I also got a hold of some love ballads by Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, and Burt Bacharach.
They should attract a romantically inclined clientele.
Belle grasped Veronica's intentions.
Men on dates usually tip higher.
Veronica switched the program to Dean Martin singing Volare.
I love this song.
Belle took Bette's hand into hers as the Italian-American crooner made her forget their problems of the day.
Couples will buy only 2 meals per table.
Bette broke the romantic mood.
Yes, but they will buy more champagne, and their dates will order more lobsters. We could try one special romantic date night, perhaps Romantic Fridays?
Veronica advocated.
Yes, fresh cut flowers on the tables, lower lighting, and classic romantic holo programs. I think it is a wonderful idea.
Belle encouraged Bette to support Veronica's initiative.
We can try 1 month of Romantic Fridays.
Bette finally agreed. The 2 girls hugged him and kissed his cheeks.
Thank you, Bet. I'm confident it will be so successful you'll want to do Romantic Saturdays too.
Veronica smiled broadly, happy she could contribute more to the restaurant than only taking customers' orders and serving food. Waiting on customers was not such an easy task. It required skills only humans were best suited for. The processing powers of domestic commercial bots were still limited to only responding to direct, precise commands. They did not have the artificial intelligence to properly converse with or anticipate the desires of human customers. Even the much more advanced artificial intelligence of military-grade warrior androids still lacked the cognitive skills of a human. Bette and Belle were an exception. They proved it on the battlefields of Mars and in the human courts that they were not mere machines. They were gifted with much more than just advanced artificial intelligence. They were the only 2 androids, unintentionally and unexpectedly, with artificial souls, AS. As they sat and enjoyed the hologram programs, Belle had a creative thought.
Why not reason with them?
Reason with whom?
Veronica immediately asked. Belle did not answer Veronica. Instead, she looked to Bette.
They are not mindless automatons that are set in their programming. They are human beings.
You cannot reason with them, human or not.
Bette disagreed.
They only respect strength. They will not be detoured by reason, especially if they think they have the advantage.
Who are not automatons?
Veronica asked again. Bette looked at the young woman, processing in his mind if he should worry her with what had happened to them earlier that morning. He realized she would have to know sooner or later.
The party?
The Chinese Communist Party?
Veronica questioned, yet knowing what it meant. Veronica was a Martian, being that she was one of the first human children born on Mars. She was a child when the Chinese government attempted to wipe out the other international bases on the planet. She had lost both her parents during the conflict. Her grandfather, the governor of Bradbury Landing, would have lost his only grandchild if it were not for the initiative of Belle and Bette. Belle turned to Veronica, who was much younger in years than her, but not in appearance.
They tried to capture us today. We also saw Woody today. He informed us that the party is hoping to reverse engineer one of us.
Veronica seemed less concerned when Belle mentioned Woody.
How do you know it was not some elaborate plan of Woody's to frighten you to work for him?
They both thought about what she was saying. Bette finally answered her.
They were Asians with Chinese assault rifles, most likely PLA-2 agents.
You really think that the American government is going to allow the party to operate so freely in the States? Armed?
Veronica was even more skeptical.
Since you opened this restaurant, how many times have you had health inspectors, fire inspectors, OSHA inspectors, EPA inspectors, ATF agents, and IRS agents audit or inspect you?
Monthly.
Belle understood what she was implying.
It cost most of what we had to meet all their regulations just to stay open.
So after all that harassment trying to shut you down failed, all of a sudden Chinese communist intelligence agents try to capture you? Then Woody just so happens to show up the same morning? I am assuming he made you an offer to work for the agency in exchange of helping you maintain your restaurant, yes?
Yes.
They both replied.
In the heat of the moment, the simplified Chinese characters on the trucks, the QBZ-101 assault rifles, we assumed they were PLA-2.
Bette was realizing they may have been duped. Belle recalled,
After each government inspection, Woody soon showed up with an offer for us to unburden ourselves of the restaurant and work for him.
He has been wanting to enlist your services ever since my grandfather helped sway the Supreme Court in giving you both American citizenships. He always told me it was the least he could do for your saving me.
The governor also argued to the court that our unique AS was instrumental in winning the war. Our service justified our being awarded citizenship.
Bet reminded her.
I haven't forgotten.
She smiled.
But your saving me was still more important to him than your winning the conflict.
As it was for us, too.
Belle hugged Veronica. A rapping came to the front door of the restaurant. All three turned to see Woody standing outside, his hand raised as he began to gently knock on the glass door again. Bet walked over and unlocked the door.
You're not open yet.
Woody stepped inside.
We are closed Mondays.
Bet pointed to the sign that hung right on the door in front of Woody.
So, it says,
Woody, smiling, walked to Veronica.
how you have grown.
Looking her over from head to toes, he admired the young woman's legs.
I see you got your Earth legs. Finally accustomed to Earth's gravity?
Belle stepped between him and Veronica.
Woody, was the ambush on the bridge you?
Woody seemed surprised by the question.
Belle, really?
Was it?
Bet also asked, having relocked the door.
If I told you it wasn't, would you believe me?
No.
Veronica came out from around Belle.
In that case, let's hypothetically say it was. Would that mean the party would not want to capture you for reverse engineering?
He sat down at one of the tables and took off his hat, holding it in his lap.
No, it would not.
Bet had to agree.
Actually, they may not.
Veronica responded.
I am sure they are already aware that you do not even know why Belle and Bet have developed consciousnesses. If their own designers do not understand why would the party think reverse engineering would find the answer?
Woody was impressed.
Veronica, as always, your logic is impeccable, except for one very important fact.
Which is?
Veronica asked.
Humans are rarely logical. As for the Chinese Communists' leadership, the word for logic in Chinese is luoji. It's rooted from the Greek word. Logic is a Western concept, not Eastern. They consider the Western concept of making decisions solely on logic and reason naive, and even foolish, without considering the importance of relationships and face. If you really want to use logic, logically, why go through the expense of research and development if you can just borrow from those who have discovered what is proven to work? A much more frugal method. Wouldn't you agree?
Bet turned to Belle and Veronica.
Woody is right about the party.
Veronica, frustrated, turned to Bet.
Taking you apart will not find the answers they are searching for. She turned her attention back to Woody. It is the inherent problem with evolutionary robotics. By letting the robots design themselves, by using accelerated generational trials and errors, the engineers that started the process are in the dark how their robots evolved. Even if you dissect and probe the human body, with all our modern technology, you cannot find the soul. How can they expect to find the soul in Bet and Belle? They must understand that.
Communist Chinese are atheists. I don't even think they believe in souls.
Woody began brushing off unseen dirt from his hat.
Even most atheists acknowledge that being human is much more than just a beating heart and active brainwaves. It is the soul, the spirit in all of us that makes us more than mere biological machines. Belle and Bet more than once have proven they have that elusive spark that science can still not pinpoint even in us humans.
Bet could see how much Veronica wanted to believe that they were not in danger, that their fears were merely Woody's fabrications to entice them to work for the agency.
Perhaps they are confident they can find what our designers missed.
Bet added.
They will not lose anything by trying. Either way, we would end up losing Belle and Bet.
Woody mentioned to Veronica. He turned to Belle and smiled.
Do you have any coffee?
Yes, Woody, we have coffee. But you know you won't be able to sleep tonight if you have coffee this late in the day.
I know.
Woody looked back at Veronica, who was still standing over him.
but I think I will have some anyway. No harm in trying.
Friday night, the restaurant had a small line waiting for tables. Veronica's idea for Romantic Fridays was turning into a success. The lights were low as couples enjoyed their dinners and watching Dusty Springfield singing Burt Bacharach's The Look of Love on the hollow stage. Belle stood with an order in her hands, listening intently to the words of the song. She looked back at the swinging doors to the kitchen as Veronica went in to pick up her order. Belle glimpsed at Bet cooking as Dusty sang the words. How long I have waited just to love you, now that I have found you. You've got the look of love. It's on your face, a look that time can't erase. In between the swings of the door, she caught Bet smiling at her. She smiled back and realized she needed to serve her order. Belle placed the steamed lobsters with melted butter before the middle-aged couple celebrating their wedding anniversary. The man looked to Belle, not realizing he was not talking to a fellow human.
May we please have 2 slices of your blueberry cheesecake and 2 cappuccinos for dessert?
Oh, no cheesecake for me.
The wife replied.
I have to watch my figure.
Don't be silly, you look wonderful.
I agree with your husband.
Belle replied.
You look wonderful, and if I could be so bold, our blueberry cheesecake enriches the soul.
I'll just have a taste of his.
The wife answered.
Oh no, I want all my cheesecake.
He turned to Belle.
Please bring 2 slices. After 15 years, I know she will end up eating most of mine.
He turned back to his wife.
You can have a taste of your own slice. If you don't finish it, I will finish it for you.
You could lose weight too.
His wife answered.
Cheesecake has a lot of calories.
How often do I have cheesecake?
Fine, get 2 slices.
She lastly agreed, yet clearly upset that he was unwilling to share his 1 slice with her. Belle uploaded the order into her system, just as she noticed a young Asian couple enter the restaurant. Veronica was showing them to a table that one of the domestic robots had just cleared. She turned her attention back to the table she was serving.
I will bring your dessert and cappuccinos after you finish your lobsters. Enjoy your evening and happy anniversary.
Belle turned her focus back to the attractive Asian couple. They have had many Asian patrons, but she felt something odd about these two. They sat at their table, barely looking at their menus, and seemingly more interested in casing their surroundings than enjoying the holo show or, more importantly, each other. Belle went to her next table while maintaining a watchful eye on them. Bet had never been busier. He had only the 1 domestic robot to help him in the kitchen. The other robot was helping Belle and Veronica to clear tables and fill the dishwasher. He had to admit that Romantic Fridays were a great idea and was already considering extending it to Saturdays too. They may even need to hire another human cook and human waitress.
Tomatoes.
He transmitted processor to his robotic assistant. The machine brought him diced tomatoes that he added on top of the 2 blues he was frying with white wine, black pepper, butter, garlic, and chives. He covered the pan for only a few seconds and then slid the fish on separate oval-shaped serving plates. He added on each dish a slice of lemon, fresh parsley, and small chilled orchids for garnish. Veronica came in just as he placed the completed fish dishes on the service counter.
These are the blues for table 8?
She asked as she picked them up. He nodded to confirm her observation, turning back to his list of orders Belle had transmitted to his processor. He noted she had added,
Love you always,
to her new orders. He smiled to himself. 2 lobsters. He transmitted to the kitchen robot as he added more water to the steamer. A few moments passed and he still had not received the lobsters. He repeated the order this time with an audio command.
2 lobsters.
Still no lobsters were presented to him. He finally turned to see what the problem was. The machine just stood there, seemingly having trouble processing the last command.
KH1, 2 more lobsters.
He would have said, please, but knew it was meaningless to the robotic device. The machine still just stood there ignoring his command. He approached the robot helper as he attempted to remotely access its processor.
KH1 respond.
He stood before the lifeless machine. The robot suddenly turned its head to Bet, reaching up and grabbing him by both arms, sending a magnetic shock wave through Bet's core. Bet went limp in the robot's arms. The machine picked Bet up and carried him to the rear entrance of the restaurant. Just outside the door, a white unmarked van waited, its rear hatch already open for the robot to drop Bet into the rear. Belle stopped in the middle of taking an order from a new couple. She lost her link to Bet.
Veronica, please take over.
Belle headed directly to the kitchen. Entering the kitchen, she feverishly searched for Bet. Looking out the back, she spotted KH-1 dropping Bet into the vehicle. The hatch closed hard with him inside as the vehicle sped off. Belle screamed. KH-1 turned to Belle. A kitchen knife in hand, it charged her. With one swift motion, she ripped the machine's arm off that held the knife. Her second move decapitated the machine as she pushed it aside to gain chase on foot after the van. The van seemed unaware of her pursuit as it entered the flow of traffic on the main road. She easily accelerated her running speed and navigated her way among the vehicles on the road, gaining upon it. At the first intersection, the unmarked van made its first indication that it was aware of her. It ignored the traffic signal and jumped the light. All the other vehicles on the road suddenly stopped, their engines systematically shut off. The unmarked van was unaffected by the emergency traffic shutdown. It instead weaved through the stopped vehicles, making its escape. A flying police drone was instantly activated, joining the chase as it took snapshots of the van while over a bullhorn system ordered the van to halt. At the next intersection, a second car that was also unaffected by the emergency traffic shutdown barreled into the fleeing van. Both vehicles came to an abrupt stop. A bit dazed, Woody emerged from the driver's side of the car just as Belle caught up. She immediately ripped the rear hatch off the van, pulling Bet out. Woody, weapon drawn, approached the driver's side of the unmarked van, finding it unoccupied. He walked around to Belle.
What happened?
She seemed unaware of his question as she just held the limp Bet in her arms. She tried to get Bet to respond to her.
Belle, what happened?
Woody holstered his sidearm. She looked up at Woody, her face filled with worry and fear.
It seems they hacked into one of our domestic robots. I think they used a direct magnetic pulse to deactivate his processor.
Woody knelt down to her as she held Bet even tighter. The police drone still hovered above them, lighting the scene of the collision, as police vehicles and an ambulance approached. He put a hand on her shoulder.
He'll be all right. You are both made of tougher stuff.
They had to close the restaurant for that weekend. Bet was flown, with Woody, to MIT's secret military robotics research facility. Woody promised Belle he would see that the best people worked on rebooting Bet's system. He promised her that he would have Bet back to her, fully functional. It was a long weekend for Belle and Veronica as they waited for Woody to return with Bet. Not knowing what to do, they were too depressed and concerned to enjoy anything. They spent their time cleaning and re-cleaning the kitchen and dining room. It was not until late Sunday night that Woody returned with Bet. Belle and Veronica both rushed Bet at the front door, kissing him and hugging him. Bet looked as if nothing had happened to him. Hugging and kissing him, they both felt something peculiar, something cold and indifferent. They let go their embraces of him and pulled back uneasily.
Bet?
Yes, Belle?
Bet answered.
Are you okay?
She asked.
I am at 100% peak performance. All my systems are completely operational.
He dryly answered. Belle and Veronica both looked to Woody. His face was filled with remorse.
The reboot brought back all his systems, except his AS.
What?
Veronica's face turned from confusion to anguish.
They rebooted his system half a dozen times with his original files. They do not understand why the AS did not activate. Mechanically and software-wise, he is completely the same as before the incident.
Woody tried to console them both.
They did, and tried. Everything they could.
He took Belle's hands into his.
I am so sorry, Belle.
She just stood there, looking at the machine that was once the man she loved. There was no more love in his eyes. They were merely the alert eyes of an advanced machine. She turned to Woody.
I want the reboot too.
Veronica's heart dropped.
Belle, what are you saying?
Belle turned to Veronica.
I cannot continue on without him. I don't want to continue on without his love.
Veronica began to cry.
What of my love for you, Belle? I don't want to lose you both.
Veronica's heart dropped.
Belle, what are you saying?
Belle turned to Veronica.
I cannot continue on without him. I don't want to continue on without his love.
Veronica began to cry.
What of my love for you, Belle? I don't want to lose you both.
Belle took Veronica in her arms and held her close to her bosom as the young woman sobbed loudly. Belle could feel the wetness of Veronica's tears on her blouse.
I cannot feel him inside me anymore. The connection is broken.
Belle, I understand how you feel,
Woody placed a comforting hand on her shoulder.
but you still have others that love you and need you, as you.
Veronica looked up at her, her eyes and nose a runny mess from her crying.
Belle, do you care for me? After my parents died in the war and my grandfather passed away, you and Bet are the only family I have.
Of course I do.
Belle looked at Veronica. She wanted to cry too, but was physically unable to.
Then you must not do the reboot.
Veronica cried.
Promise me.
Belle looked to the machine that was once her Bet. It was clearly unmoved by the emotions expressed before it. Belle looked back at the crying, sniffling face of the young woman she and Bet, in all practical ways, had adopted as their daughter. She could see in Veronica's eyes the love that was missing in Bet's.
I promise.
The end.